Hello again there. Now we're back continuing our teaching on the final three judgments. And we covered already the event that had to take place before the judgment, and that was the rapture. We covered the judgment of the saints, which is the first judgment that takes place after the rapture, which is in heaven. We explained that. And then we covered the judgment of the nations. We started on that last week, and we said the judgment of the nations is in two parts because you have the judgment of the Jewish nation, and then you have the judgment of the Gentile nations. Now, we explained last week that the judgment of the Jewish people are first in the judgment of the nations, and that take place on earth at the end of the tribulation, just before the 1,000-year reign. These are human beings that left alive after the battle of Armageddon that has to be separated to see who go into the earthly kingdom. It's a literal, physical kingdom that Jesus is going to rule with live human beings, which are left alive at the end of the tribulation, because all people are not killed during the tribulation period. You have life to save that's still alive at the end that has to be separated to go into the kingdom. Now, the reason the Jews are separated first, living Jews separated first, the lost and saved among them, is because it's their kingdom. It's the time of Jacob's trouble. God is dealing directly with the Jewish people again, so he separates his servants. The Jews are called the servants, and that's the group that's separated first. And then the sheep and the goats, we're going to see in a little bit, we're going to get 25, are actually the Gentile nations. And so we cleared up last week that the Jews are judged first, and that the rapture is not in chapter 24 when it's talked about one be taken, one left, because this is a tribulation time period. The rapture doesn't happen at least 7 years before this point. So now we look at the judgment of the Gentile nation, which is the sheep and the goats. Now, reason these things are important, because if you don't separate these judgments and put them in the right place, you get confused about the role of the church, what happened to Christians, why they add, you get a work salvation teaching out of this, your work's going to get you in, all those things are misunderstood when you don't interpret Matthew chapter 24 and 25, the judgment of the Jewish nation and the judgment of the Gentile nation. And that's what it's talking about. So we're going to look at the separation of the Gentile nations. The Gentile that's not killed, the one that left alive, that got to be separated before Jesus started his millennial reign. Some will be saved, some are going to be lost. And we're going to look at that. That's what this separation is going to be about. Now, before we get to that separation of the sheep and the goats of the Gentile nations, it's actually a couple of parables that given in between, because that judgment is actually in 25:31 through 46. But he give a couple of parables, what I call warning parables, and 25:1, the parable of the 10 virgins, and then in 25:14, the parable of the talents. Now, these two parables are what I call warning or be ready parables. He gives these parables to tell people, you better be ready when I come. Because if you're not ready, you're not going to get to go into the kingdom, and you're not going to have any rewards. So the 10 virgins, to me, is really a parable. It's about being ready. Make sure you're ready. But it has the idea of the Gentiles is more kind of in view of the 10 virgins. You got to be ready. You want to be a part of the kingdom. And the only way to be ready, you have to accept Jesus, like that message that's preached about Jesus during the tribulation period. Remember, 144,000 going to be preaching the last 3.5 years, and they're going to preach about the Messiah returning. And the only way a person can be ready, he has to believe that message about Jesus. And with 10 verses, 5 had all and 5 didn't have all. The 5 that had all accepted Jesus and got saved. The 5 that didn't have all didn't get saved. They wasn't ready. They all heard, but only 5 was ready. And they really kind of represent the Gentile, the not Pacific Jew. That's anybody that's not a Jew. But when you get to the parable of the talents, it's really more with the Jewish people in mind. The Jews that are ready and the Jews that are not ready. And we already said he showed how he separates the Jews first. But the idea of making sure you're ready, because he in 25, he used the word, he's called his own servants. For the kingdom of heaven, like a man in 25:14, traveling into a far country, who called his own servant and delivered them his good. So the Jews are the servant. So it's teaching both groups, Jews and Gentiles, be ready when the master comes. Be ready when the Lord comes. Because if you're not ready, you Gentiles, you won't get to go in. The verse 25, you Jews, if you're not ready, you won't get to go in. And you have no reward. You won't have no position in the kingdom if you are not ready. Because it says some will be over 2 cities, some will be over 5 cities, and one that ain't ready won't be in at all. So these two parables of the virgins and the talents are really warning, be ready type of judgments. Be ready at this time period when the Lord returns, whether you're Jew or Gentile, you better be ready. And the only way any of them can be ready, you have to accept the preaching of the Messiah that's returning. It's all about accepting Jesus. That ain't never changed. It was about the church age before the rapture. You had to accept Jesus. It's always about accepting Jesus in order to be ready to be part of what he has to offer. So I wanted to cover that because those two parables do appear before you get to the last part of 25, the 10 talents and the 10 virgins, and the 10 and the talents. But they are be ready. Make sure you're ready when he comes. That's the idea in both parables. I want to emphasize that. So now we're going to pick up the actual judgment of what we call the Gentile. The Gentile nations, the Gentiles that are alive at the end of the tribulation, that are not killed during the tribulation period. And you have to separate these groups. And they're called the sheep and the goats. So now I'm going to read 31 down through 40, and we'll take it in 2 parts because they're going to be talking about judging the sheep first, then the goats second. So let's read that, and then I'm going to do the Gentile nations here. The sheep and the goats are Gentile nations. Lost and saved Gentile, not Jews. The Jews already been dealt with. Lost and saved Gentile. So 25:31, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory with all his holy angels with him, then shall he sit up on the throne of his glory. Before him shall be gathered all nations. He shall separate them one from another, as the shepherd divided his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left hand. Then the king shall say unto them on the right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungry, and fed thee, thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, naked, and clothed thee? When saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, insomuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. So see, he start with what he called sheep on the right hand. Right hand, righteous ones. That's the idea. The one that saved. So he talked to the saved one that first. He done separated these nations into 2 groups. Saved Gentiles and lost Gentiles. Now he's going to tell each group why he's doing what he's doing. So when he started talking to the one that saved, he said, he was going to gather them, and then he was going to, on the sheep, on the goats and that. Then he should say unto them on the right hand in verse 34, Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you for the foundation of the world. He's going to say, now come on into my kingdom. All y'all, those sheep on the right hand, y'all get to come in. And then they ask why. Now, because he's going to tell them why. He don't ask why. He tell them why. So he's going to tell them why they get to come in. He gives this reason why. In verse 25, for I was hungry, and you gave me the meat, and I was thirsty, and he said, you fed me, you clothed me, you visited me. He told them all this stuff that they did for him. Why are they getting to go in? Now, it already said they're righteous. That means that they've been separated into the saved sheep and the lost goat. Now, he's explaining to them why they getting to come in. So he tell them all these things that they done did down through 37, and so when you get to 37, 30 down to 36 and 37, they asked the question. Then shall the righteous answer unto him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungry and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? When saw thee a stranger and took thee in? So they said, when did we do it? Lord, when did we do all this stuff that you reward us for? When we do all these things that you saying, come on into the kingdom? When did we do this for you? So because they're saying, wait a minute, you said we done these things for you? Well, the Lord just come back just a little while before that. So they trying to figure out, we ain't never really seen you. When did we do these things for you? And the Lord go tell them when they done it for him. And verse 40, he said, and the king shall answer and say to them, verily I say unto you, insomuch that you have done it unto one of the least of these, the key to the understanding who they did it for, or how they done it for the Lord, is these my brethren. See that little sign, my brethren. You have done it unto me. He's talking about Pacific when they helped the Jews. These the Gentile that helped the Jewish people, which the nation that the Lord was born into. He was a human-born Jew, and they were his brethren in the flesh was Jews. That was his people. He said, so when you did it to the one of these Jews, the least of them, the one that was less, or the one that didn't have much, the one that wasn't wealthy or had a lot, when you help one of these least of these Jewish people, then you've done unto me. So he said, when you help my Jewish brethren, now he's talking about the saved Jews that was running and hiding during the tribulation. These are Gentiles that helped the Jews when they were being persecuted in the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. Just a group of Gentiles that got saved and helped out the Jews by hiding them, not telling on them or feeding them. Because they run, last 3.5 years of the tribulation, they running for their lives. It's similar to when Hitler was trying to kill all the Jews back there in World War II during the Holocaust, and other nations, other non-Jews helped hide them, sneak them out. That's the same idea here. Non-Jews in Germany and Italy and places around and Yugoslavia, places where some of those Jews was helped by non-Germans and non-Jewish people. There was Gentiles that helped these Jews, so all of them weren't killed. That's the same idea that's happening here. They're not Jews, they're non-Jews that help these Jews when they fleeing to be exterminated. The Antichrist is going to be trying to do the same thing Hitler tried to do, exterminate every last Jew during this time period, the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. These Gentiles that get saved, hearing that preaching on the 144,000, go assist these Jews. So these are Gentiles that never took the mark, they got saved, and they help hide, feed, do things for Jews to keep them safe. That's what he's talking about. So he said, when you help one of the Jewish, my brethren, saved Jews that was fleeing, you helped me. When they was in prison, you snuck food into them. Maybe there was a guard at the prison, and they helped feed some of the Jews that were locked up, that was planning to be killed. The same kind of concept in Germany when Hitler had all them Jews. That was German soldiers, and I know this personally. I've talked to a surviving Holocaust guy. I worked with one. Actually, it was a German guard that fed him and his a friend of his. He snuck apples into him at the risk of his own life and fed them when he was supposed to be doing that. He either got caught, the German would have killed them. So that's the same concept. He helped these Jewish people. He had to sneak around and hide to do it. But he was a German soldier that felt sorry for them and helped feed them when they weren't supposed to have any food. So that's the same idea. So these people lived and helped Jews. Now the Lord remember that. The Lord said, I remember when you done this for him. And your reward is you come. Not only are you saved, you will get to come and live for 1,000 years in this kingdom because of what you did. Now all they was doing was proving that they were godly people by helping people that was in trouble. So they were helped, but they were Jews that was being persecuted. So that's what he tell them. So these are saved Gentiles, the sheep that are getting in, because the Lord say, you proved that you are the follower and you cared about other human beings, especially my human-born family, by doing these things and helping them when they were being persecuted. That's what's going on here. And so when they didn't know why they was getting to go in, he told them, you're a cause of why did you done for me? They said, well, we didn't do nothing for you. He said, when you done least my brother. So the Lord said, when you help a fellow believer, this case is Jews, another saved person, a child of God, the Lord said, that's directly helping me. That's the point. You can't go do for Jesus in heaven, but right today, if you do something for another saved person that need it, Jesus said that's just like doing it unto me. That's the same idea here, and that's what's going on. So that group get to go in. The sheep of the saved Gentile, they going in. Now he going to address the other group, the lost group, which is called the goats. Now my wife's going to read that, 41 through the rest of the chapter, which is on the people on the left hand.
Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in, naked, and ye clothed me not, sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal.
So here's this group on the left hand, which are not saved, and he tell them to depart into everlasting life, which is reserved for the devil and angels. Then they say, why we can't go in? Why you? He gonna tell them the fruit of what they done proved that they were not saved. Then because he said, well, I was hungry, you didn't give me drink. When they didn't help the fleeing Jews. Matter of fact, a lot of them turned them in. A lot of them wouldn't help them and turn them in and told on them and help them be found. So they didn't do nothing. This was the group that had the mark of the beast, the one that did not get saved, people that would not believe the gospel, and they was against the Jews. So they didn't try to do anything for them. They were only concerned about the government or the system or the Antichrist people that was over them. So this group, so he said, you didn't do anything to show at all that you belong to me. The reason they didn't, because they didn't belong to him. So they didn't do any outward signs, which mean they had no inward relationship with God. That's the point he's making to them. He's going to say, so you didn't help me out. When we had a chance to help you, you didn't help the saved Jews that were fleeing and being persecuted. You didn't do one thing to help them. And if you don't do nothing to help someone that's in trouble, you are part of the problem. If you see somebody beating someone to death and you can stop it, you don't do it, then you're part of why they die. That's because you didn't lift one finger. So they had fought, and they didn't do it because they had no concern for these fleeing, persecuted Jews. Why? Because they had no relationship with God. If they'd have been like the sheep, they'd have cared about the one that was being hurt. But they wasn't. They was only interested probably in themselves or the system or the government or whatever. But these are lost people. And they proven it by not lifting one finger to do anything for anybody else. They only care about themselves. But ain't that a lost person motive? It's all about me? I care about nobody else? Well, that's what's going on here. Same way doing German during that time. Well, a lot of Germans that hated Jews, that they would not help a Jew, that would turn Jews in, just because they wanted to follow the government. But you had other Germans that tried to help them. It's the same idea. So these people are proving that they don't have no to God. They don't know nothing about this God that's coming back, this Lord that's talking to them now, because their behavior towards the Jewish people that was his children, his brothers and sisters in the flesh that was saved, was indifferent. I don't care. And someone was even against them. So this is the group. Now, most of this group here on the left-hand side, this is the people that had took the mark of the beast and lived all the way to the end of the tribulation. That's the majority of them. Majority of them are people that took the mark, that was already condemned. That's why they wouldn't help. They're not all killed at the Battle of Armageddon. And he got to separate the lost Gentiles that took the mark from the saved Gentiles that believed the message. And so this group you talk to primarily is the one that took the mark of the beast that wasn't killed during the tribulation period. And they were lost. That's why they didn't help. That's really the idea. They didn't help because they were lost. And he separated them. And he said, you didn't do anything to even show that you knew anything about me. And so they said, well, we didn't have a chance. Verse 4 said. Then he said, also them saying, well, I said to you, as much as you did it not in the least of these, you did it not. He said, you had a chance. My Christian brothers and sisters was all around you. The Jews were running all around you. You didn't do anything for them. So don't tell me you didn't have a chance to show that you knew me and that you cared about me. If you'd have done something for them, that would have proved it. But they didn't. Now he says something in verse 46, and then he shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous in the life eternal. Now notice, everlasting punishment, they're going to go in the righteous in life eternal. Now I emphasize this verse because anybody that's trying to place the church in this time period, you cannot, or the rapture in this time period. And the rapture take place, there's nobody sentenced to hell or punishment at the rapture. The Lord just take the church and go. No one is judged and told to go into the lake of fire. But these are human beings that's trying to go into the kingdom. So what happens here is the saved Gentile going to the kingdom, and the lost one are cast into hell. Now, the lake of fire ain't going to be a lake of fire forever, but that's because the next place they go see is going to be the lake of fire. So they go off in hell, the everlasting punishment is out there for 1,000 years. Then after the 1,000 years, then they'll be judged and sent to the lake of fire, which is our next judgment. So the sheep here and the goats are the saved Gentiles that's left alive, the lost Gentiles that left alive at the end of the tribulation. The sheep are the saved, the goats are the lost. That has to be separated to go into the kingdom with the saved Jews. Because he separated the saved Jews from the lost Jews in 24. Now he separated the saved Gentile from the lost Gentile in 25. And the saved group go into the kingdom, and the lost people are got rid of. Jews and Gentiles. So only saved people are going to be in a 1,000-year ring, and this is the God that's separating them here in these two chapters. So these people go in and live for 1,000 years, raise families, have children, live on the earth. Jesus ruled and reigned for 1,000 years over mostly Jews with some Gentiles mixed in. That's the group that will go in and repopulate the earth during the 1,000-year reign. Now the church, we spiritual, we rule and reign in that kingdom with him. It talks about that. We already talked about that. For we all of the saved will be there. Human saved and spiritual saved. We'll all be in the kingdom with Jesus. We'll all be there together. It's just that these human ones will live for 1,000 years in a physical body, and the one that go in, and raise children, have lives, have families, rule the world, populate the world, and we'll be in position to help rule and reign and oversee them as the bride and as the church. And the Old Testament apostles and the prophets have 12 thrones for each one group. They'll be there too, and Jesus will be the king running the whole thing. That's the millennial reign. So this is the end of the tribulation, just for the millennial reign. This is the group that go in that will be a part of that, will rule and reign. So the servants of the Jews that was judged and separated, lost and saved Jews that go in. The sheep and the goats are the Gentile, lost and saved Gentile, the sheep go in, and the goats, the lost Gentiles that got rid of. So the kingdom started with only saved people going in, saved human bodies, and spiritual saved people for 1,000 years. So that's what 25 and 26 is about, is setting up the people that will be a part of the human people in the 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ, and the lost that got rid of, because the kingdom will not have any lost people in it at the beginning. No lost at the beginning of the 1,000-year reign. There'll be people born that'll be lost, but no one to be lost going in. So that's really what. So don't get confused with these two chapters, 24 and 25, in the tribulation period, set at the very end, and the separation and the dealing with the nations at the very end to go into the kingdom. The lost got to be removed so the saved can go in. So that's really what's going on here in this section here. So don't let nobody confuse you by trying to make people think that this had to do with the church. This has nothing to do with the church. The church is not in view at all here, because the church has been gone for at least 7 years. So that's what I wanted to make sure I give it. Stop this thinking. So that's what's going on here. So now we're going to move into the final judgment after this, which is what we call the Great White Throne Judgment. It's 1,000 years before that judgment will take place, and we'll see that when we get to it. This is the second part of the last three judgments. The church was judged, the nations was within two groups. Now we're moving to the last one, the Great White Throne, which will be the final judgment of all lost people, and that'll be the last judgment. Won't be no more after that. So that's what I wanted to give you. So hopefully this has helped you not get confused about the rapture and Matthew chapter 24 and all the stuff that's going on and trying to put the church in the midst of this. If you put the church in it, you're going to misinterpret the Bible. Don't do that. You'll get confused. So that's it for this one here. So make sure you're ready. The parables of the talent and the parable of the 10 version is saying, if you living at this time, you better be ready. But that's true now. If you're living now, you better be ready before you die. Because if you ain't got Jesus, you ain't going. You got to have a relationship with Jesus to go to heaven now. You got to have this Jesus to get in the kingdom. You got to be ready. And the only way you be ready, you must have accepted the Lord. That's the key to being ready. That's all it takes to be ready. Now, rewards is based on other stuff. But getting in got to do with having a relationship with Jesus. So make sure you're ready. The warning is for now and the warning is for later on, whoever living at the time. So that's that. We'll pick up with the judgment, right through on judgment next time.